Hello there. It's your girl, Mary B. Welcome back to another episode of Something's Gotta Give. And today's episode is just a reminder to stay in your lane. Comparison is the thief of joy. And you're probably like, Mary, could you be any more unoriginal? But like I've said before, sometimes the most generic statements ring true. And today was a little tough for me because I found myself comparing to other people's experiences, other people's lives. And a new act of discipline that I implemented a few months ago was monitoring how I interact on social media. As I am changing my relationship with social media and becoming the person who produces content instead of consuming content, I had to be mindful of how I interact with others and how I have a relationship with social media, which led to me not viewing people's stories or not participating in certain people's content as a whole. And as I'm human, I found myself going through a period of loneliness. I sometimes feel very powerful in my season of solitude, but sometimes my solitude can feel like loneliness. And only through the periods of loneliness can you build this strength in being confident in that loneliness turning into solitude. But sometimes loneliness is here to teach you something of why you're feeling that emotion and how to alchemize it and to turn it into the power of solitude. And I found myself going to things that I know won't make me feel good and consuming the content that made me feel like, why was I ostracized from this relationship? Why am I not loved like this person is? Or comparing myself to a person that I don't even know, thinking that their life looks so great, so I'm looking at their cup half full, which is making me look half empty. And what I have in my life is half empty, which is a direct reflection of my mindset feeling like I don't have enough, or I'm not enough, or everything that I have present in my life isn't good enough. And I should trust that everything that I have in this present day is and always will be enough. And I'm so blessed, and I'm always operating in a energy wavelength of abundance. But in order for me to operate in that wavelength of abundance and optimism, I have to be very mindful of where my attention goes. Where your attention goes is where your energy flows. And because I am hypersensitive to everything around me, and I am so alert, and I have to be so cautious of what I pour my energy into because it has a direct impact on me, I have to be mindful of what I do and every step that I take within my life. I have to be mindful of the relationships that are present and how that fills my cup, or if it doesn't, and how I can alter that so it can, at the end, put me in a better position of being optimistic and feeling full instead of empty. I have to be mindful of how often I go to work, and when I am at work, how I interact with others, because work can be a place that completely depletes you. And if I reach a place where I have been depleted because of my work, I have to make sure I know exactly what to do and how much time I need in order to make sure I can charge myself up again. I also have to be mindful of the places that I go to. I used to be somebody who loved thrifting, and I love the idea of thrifting still. I love how it is so cool to go somewhere and be able to come up across a beautiful item and get it at such an unbelievable discounted rate. But because I'm honoring how sensitive I am to things, I don't feel good anymore when I go to thrift stores. Why? Because a secondhand energy passed down, and I feel like energy speaks volume, and honoring that I have the gift of sensitivity allows me to also be in the space where I have to honor the truth of how sensitive I am. And honoring my truth also means that I need to act in what I know now. Right? First, you have to be honest, and honest means you receive information. Once you receive information, it is now your choice with what to do within that information. And now, because I'm being authentic to myself and who I truly am, everything around me has had to change. And if you're somebody who isn't extremely sensitive to things, you might think I'm crazy and I'm just making things up, or there's just no way, you have to be like that. Like, why don't you just put a thick skin on? And when I was living like that, and when I was accepting other people's beliefs and perceptions of my sensitivity and how I should be, I wasn't acting like myself. And so I was doing a lot of self-harm behaviors and putting myself in a lot of situations that harmed me instead of benefited me. And since I'm no longer choosing to believe what other people's perceptions are of me and honoring who I am and who I know to be, I have to be mindful of where my attention goes. And it is, in fact, that deep. And not everyone is going to relate to this, but those who are very sensitive to everything around them, we call ourselves empaths, right? And when you are a true empath, you are not going to walk around and state just how much of an empath you are. I know it's become a cool thing online to say like, hey, I'm an empath and I feel this. But when you really have this ability in life, it is something that you keep sacred to yourself, because it's something that often brings us more pain than it does pleasure. And so knowing that about myself, I have to protect and I have to honor the truth of who I am and know that not many people are just as sensitive as I am. And knowing that requires me to stay in my own lane, because if I go out trying to seek other people who may relate to this, it means that I don't have enough trust in myself to know that this is just who I am. And I feel like being confident in who you are and trusting who you are will send the message out to the universe that you are this, and therefore your community will be attracted to you of others who are empathic and who feel just as intensely as you are, and how to create those boundaries and set those areas of discipline in their life so they can be confident in their actions that allow them to be their most authentic selves. I know that if I am not mindful of what I do every morning within my routine, it is easy for me to wake up as past versions of myself rather than waking up as a best version of myself. And what I mean by that is I have to be very mindful of my relationship with social media yet again. So if you're someone who wakes up and the first thing you do is spend time scrolling and taking everybody's information, you are now a product of the information that you take. You are not a product of yourself. So if you find yourself going throughout the day having a song stuck in your head and you realize it was the first song that you heard in the morning, that is not an original thought. That is a thought that came from something that you consumed. I would hate to be the product of something that I consume instead of being something that I created within myself. And the morning is a perfect time to take opportunity to create those moments of routine that will help you become the best version of yourself. It sounds cliche to really have a morning routine, but again, the most generic cliche things really have the most impact in your life. So if you're someone who chooses to not go on your phone and you choose to do things that help you instead, so whether that look like taking a walk, feeding yourself, journaling, reading, listening to a podcast that's going to help with your self-development or help in your career or help your family or just helping you move forward instead of moving backwards, that's you implementing a day-to-day practice for you to become a better version of yourself. And because you're tending to it every day, of course it's going to grow. Of course you're going to change because you're being mindful of who you're choosing to wake up to day to day, who you're choosing to be day to day. That is so powerful. And because you're being mindful of who you are every single day, you're automatically setting the tone of, hey, this is my lane and I'm staying in it. And there's no way I'm going to be thrown off in it because I've set the tone for it the moment I woke up. When you also take the time to pour into yourself, you can exude the confidence to others of just how powerful you are. And people respect power. People respect confidence. People respect authority. But you have to take the time to learn how to orchestrate that within yourself before you can get other people to follow you. That is a part of leadership, right? But leadership doesn't happen overnight. Well, staying in your lane requires you to be so invested in yourself and being so confident that what other people may think about you or what other people may say about you or what other people may have going on has nothing to do with you. And you can trust that has nothing to do with you. And you can trust that nothing that is going outside of you is better than what you have within your life. which goes right back into the theme of comparison, right? It's so easy to look outside of ourselves and feel like everything that you see is better than you. Escapism is at its all-time high right now. We have a plethora of reality shows that are a click away, where you can escape to somebody else's life and feel like because they have this house and this car and they have a marriage, they have whatever it is that you feel like you don't have, their life is better. So let me just tap into their reality because their reality seems like it's better than my reality. But the moment you have a moment to yourself, you allow yourself to have a moment, you look in the mirror, you see yourself half empty. And because you see yourself half empty, you go back into that route of escapism, whatever that form of escapism is to you, because it's so easily accessible. And that's a form of brainwashing. And when you look at it like that, it kind of makes you sick. Like, I'm not so easily to be persuaded, to be controlled, because I'm that uncomfortable with myself. The more you form a relationship with yourself, the more you actually spend a little bit more time in solitude, or spend a little bit more time within things that give you purpose. So if you find a hobby, like, you're way more present in your hobby than you would be watching television or doom scrolling on whatever your social media device is, right? And being present requires you to be in what? To be in your own lane. I feel like staying in your own lane is a direct correlation to whatever you find to be successful. Whatever you water grows. And it's difficult to be so attached to a vision of yourself, a part of yourself that you aren't yet, but how that comes forth, how that version of yourself that you want to be comes forth and you actually are that person, is by already acting as if you are that person. So if you're someone who has desires to be in a certain way, you don't say, oh, I try to work out every day, or I try to journal every day. You just simply wake up and you do it. And you go through that period of friction because you know the only way to become that version of yourself is to pass that test of friction. You have to be so focused, and the only way you can be focused is if you don't have things around you that are making you get so far away from yourself. That's why they call yesterday the past and tomorrow is never promised, which is why you have to focus on today. Because if you don't focus on today, if you don't implement something new today, what will tomorrow be like? And I'm just sharing this because today I found myself waking up as a version of myself that maybe wasn't going to put out a podcast today. And I found myself grieving over past friendships and feeling like, well, why was I the one who had to be ostracized from this friend group? Or why am I the one who is losing everything around me? Why am I not able to have a relationship that makes me feel so whole and full? Maybe it's because it's just part of my process, and trusting that it's part of my process, and because I didn't wake up focused, because I went to old habits of being on social media and consuming content that doesn't benefit me. I woke up as a version of myself that I'm no longer trying to be in alignment with. And because I made space for that old version of myself, it came back today. But I woke up and I realized what I was doing to myself, and I realized how much my subconscious rules my reality and how much work it takes for me to not be who I used to be. It takes a lot of work. Not only does it take me waking up, but it takes me choosing to do different. So what does different look like? It means me being consistent on this podcast. It means me taking some time to be outside. It means me trusting that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. It also allows me to be honest with how I feel and having a moment of debriefing. And if I need to cry, I need to cry. And if I need to soak, I need to soak. And if I need to be in a space where I'm emotional and I need to feel, I allow that to happen. That is the only way you can grow. Not everything is beautiful in growth. Not everything is pretty in healing. And it takes a lot of consistency and a lot of discipline, just like everything else is in life. But it's so worth it. The incline of working out is much more difficult than the decline, or not moving at all. But once you've gotten to new heights, oh my gosh, you look down and you realize you never want to be there again. How much further can I go? So this is a message to anybody who sees themselves comparing it just a little bit too much, or finding themselves getting out of focus or going into lanes that are not yours. This is just a reminder that you need to be in your lane and to grab back all the attention and energy that you've been giving elsewhere that does not deserve it, and pour it back into yourself and continue moving forward, and that you are more than capable of doing so. I send you strength. I send you courage. I pray you receive wisdom. I pray you receive strength throughout this time. So, sending my love to you all this week. Thank you for growing with me. Thank you for giving me space time and time again and allowing me to be vulnerable. It is something I will never take for granted. I really appreciate you. On that note, I will see you again next Monday. Have a great week, y'all. Bye-bye.